So early this morning, Ryan Clark on ESPN on Get Up shared some thoughts on Brandon Aiyuk and the San Francisco 49ers. So let's give this a listen.
I think San Francisco suffers without Brandon Aiyuk greatly. I think Brock Purdy takes a step back, and there's some regression in his game without Brandon Aiyuk. Just look at the way he was able to win, especially in the playoff game versus the Detroit Lions. When you watched him line up, when it was one-on-one, when you tried to shade him with the safety, he found ways to make plays. And you think of so many of the timing routes that happen outside of the numbers, it's Brandon Aiyuk. Yes, he operates to Kittle inside the numbers. He operates to Deebo Samuel inside the numbers. But when we're talking about those timing routes that have to be precise, that have to be right now, Brandon Aiyuk is that guy. And so I think everything changes for the San Francisco 49ers if he's not on this team this year, more so to me than if you lose a Deebo Samuel, as Dan mentioned.
Okay, so I think when you look at this situation right now with Brandon Aiyuk, there's no doubt what Ryan Clark said is true. At least when it comes to the 49ers not being as good if they didn't have Brandon Aiyuk on their roster in 2024. I think that, though, the interesting idea regarding this is, let's say that they move on from Aiyuk, which they have the leverage. They can keep him this season. It would be unwise, I think, for him to sit out because he would lose out on a ton of money, and if he doesn't accrue a full season, he would have to come back on the same contract. So it wouldn't make sense at all for Brandon Aiyuk to skip this season. But let's say after the season, the 49ers decide, okay, we'll move on from him. We'll trade him away. They tag him. They trade him. When you look at having to pay Aiyuk, let's say $30 million like he wants, sure, if you get a first round, let's say you get a first round pick in return, you draft another receiver next year in the first round, he's probably not going to be Brandon Aiyuk, at least not right away. But you also have to consider how much you're paying that first round pick when you compare it to Aiyuk, who would make, let's say, $30 million if he got what he wanted. If you bring in a first-round receiver, what does he make? A few $1,000,000 a year. And so it's just such a massive difference in how much you're having to pay a player. And even if you get a first-round pick, the receiver comes in and is 70 to 80% of Brandon Aiyuk, it may make more sense value-wise to have that younger receiver there with Christian McCaffrey, with Brock Purdy, who I think is more valuable than Brandon Aiyuk. You need a quarterback more than I think you need a receiver. They already still have George Kittle, Deebo Samuel. And so while losing Aiyuk would hurt the 49ers, I don't think it's going to happen this season, first off, because I think that the 49ers know they have the leverage. I think Aiyuk is going to have to play this season whether or not he has a contract. But looking ahead, it could make more sense to pay Brock Purdy what they think he deserves and then tag and trade Brandon Aiyuk. I think that's a very reasonable idea for the 49ers to consider. But when we look at the time before the regular season starts, so far it seems that the 49ers are willing to pay Aiyuk about $26 million per year. It sounds like Aiyuk wants $30 million per year. And so my guess is that Aiyuk is stuck at 30, the 49ers are stuck at 26. But I think when we get closer to the regular season, just like we've seen with some other players in the 49ers the past couple seasons, where when the regular season starts to come up, things start moving a little more. And so I wouldn't be that shocked if Aiyuk and the 49ers found a middle ground and let's say they're like, okay, fine, we'll go with $28 million per year. And, he stays on the Niners for the next 3, 4, 5 seasons. I feel like that's a very likely possibility. I just think that the 49ers have done all they can to try to, pay what they think is reasonable for Aiyuk and for his talent. So those are my thoughts. If you want more NFL content, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.